Requiring KPI value approval is an optional feature that can be set within Spider Impact. It allows KPI owners to have better control over value updates that other people are responsible for entering. For KPI value approval to be enforced, an option must be enabled. To show where that is located, I'll select Administration in the bottom left, and then select Application Administration. Under General Settings, there's an option named Require Owner Approval for KPI Value Updates, which must be set to Yes. The next requirement is an owner must be defined for the setting to have any meaning. I'll select Scorecards, expand Examples, and KPI Value Approval. I'll select KPI 1 and select Edit. If I scroll down, notice how no owner has been defined. However, if I select KPI 2, there's an owner D, and also for KPI 3. I'll select Done. I'll start by showing how the process works from the updater perspective. I'll select KPI 1, select KPI Value Updates, and enter an actual of 15. Notice how the value is immediately presented on screen since no owner has been defined. However, if I select KPI 2 and update the values, select enter 15, notice how the value isn't immediately displayed on screen because approval is required by D. I'll select KPI 3 and update a value of 0 and select Save. If I select Update KPI values for either KPI 2 or KPI 3, notice that the value is visible, but there's an important note that says some KPI values have not yet been approved. These values are indicated below in blue. They'll only show on update forms like this until they are approved. That said, I'll select Cancel. The KPI updates will trigger an email to D alerting her that she has updates pending approval. I have a screenshot of what that looks like here in PowerPoint. She could then click the View in Spider Impact button, which will take and create a link to either approve or reject the KPIs. To show this in action, I'll select my other browser, where I've already logged in as D, and I'll just refresh my screen there. We'll see how this looks from her perspective. First thing we'll note is that there is an alert stating that there are KPI value updates pending approval. D could either click on the alert or select Approve KPIs in the top left. She would then be presented with an interface that shows the new value along with the old value, and if it was null, no value will be shown. It also shows the person who made the KPI updates, in this case Frank. To approve all entries at the top, she could select Approve All New Values. Notice how everything turns green. If she selects that again, that will undo that. She can do the same with Reject All New Values and undo that by clicking the X again. She can also approve or reject values one at a time. For KPI 2, she might approve it by selecting the check mark in that row. But for KPI 3, she'll notice that maybe the value entered by Frank the updater was invalid. She sees a value of 0, and that should have been maybe a value of 10, so she'll reject that value. And the last and final step here will be to select Save in the bottom right. Now those selections will trigger an email to the updater Frank, learning that his value updates were reviewed. And I have a screenshot of what that looks like here in PowerPoint. Frank could then click the View in Spider Impact button, which is create a link there to review what D had accomplished there. Now to show this in action, I'll select my other original browser, and I'll go to the home screen. And what we see there is an alert showing those things that have been rejected up at the top, and if I click more, those items that have been approved will be at the bottom part of that section. And in reviewing this, Frank sees that D was indeed correct in rejecting the value of 0. He'll click the KPI 3 section there to get taken directly to the Update KPIs panel. And here what he'll do is enter the correct value that he should have put in the first time, a value of 10, and select Update KPIs. And this will now trigger another email to D for her to once again either reject or approve the entry. Okay, I'll click KPI 2 to review this process in a bit more detail here. And I see that the value that was entered previously of 15 that was approved has immediately come across onto the speedometer and in the KPI value section. If we click the history button in the top right, we'll see that the update was tied to the updater Frank, not the approver D. I'll select close. I'll now select KPI 3. And since the 0 value was rejected by D, the speedometer is blank and the KPI value is blank. If I select history up in the top right, notice that no actions have occurred as yet, and it will remain that way until D approves the new entry of 10 for that KPI. Another point to note is that if multiple owners are assigned and one of the owners makes a KPI update, one of the other owners must approve that. And to illustrate that, I'll select KPI 4 here. I'll select Edit, and we'll see that in this case we've got two owners, Frank, who's also the updater, and D. I'll select Done. I'll update KPI values, put in some entry there, and notice how that is still pending, meaning that D at this point would now need to approve that entry. However, if the same owner is set as the updater and there are no other owners, no approvals required. And to illustrate that, I'll just select Edit, and I'm going to remove D this time. And we'll see that the same updater and owner Frank is on that KPI. I'll click Save, click Update, and I'll just change this to a different value. And notice how that entry is now immediate. Now, one last item is that Spider Impact can allow power users to log in as other users. If a person with that permission updates a KPI and then logs in as the KPI owner, they can reject their own updates, but Spider Impact does not allow them to approve it.